Hey guys, one more time on video on the Inside Spurs channel. Happy Monday morning. Hope everyone is all right and looking after themselves. In this video that we are talking, the elephant in the room, okay? Talking Ange. Talking, not really doing like a review of yesterday, but sort of the fallout from yesterday. Talking about Thursday coming up. And is it the end? And I think having a genuine discussion about really where the club is at as a whole. Okay, it's not going to be a shouting and screaming match. It's not one of your bog standard Andy cookout sessions. It's not like that. It's more of a discussion with you guys, the viewers, and really sort of discussing through gripes, discussing through issues, discussing through things that you want to get off your chest, things I want to get off my chest, everything like that. All right. So we're talking about that. And yet, again, we'll say this early doors, I'm a minute into the video, but I'm saying this early doors. You can be Ange in, Ange out, Levy in, Levy out, Lang in, Lang out. I don't care. Okay. I know all true fans coming into Thursday, whether they're positive or negative about the game, they're coming in with a mindset of, I want to support the team because I want that success. And that's what I mean. It doesn't mean you have to support Ange or you support, the players or neither. It really is. Thursday is supporting the club. Now, I've always talked about going into the big games with momentum, with confidence, with a bit of a mojo and a mindset. And I feel like coming into last Thursday, so the first leg, there was a little bit of that, obviously off the back of a win against Southampton. I know it's Southampton. I know it's not, Man City away and things like that, but you take anything you can get hold of when things aren't great. And there was things in that game that we took that we felt very, very happy about. The first half was fantastic. We then play Thursday. And I thought, actually, even though the result maybe wasn't what we wished and desired, the performance was good. We should have won 5-1 or 6-1, and we didn't. And sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles in football. Things don't always bounce your way. And as you know, as a Spurs fan, 100 times of balls bouncing, one might go our way. We seem to be very, very unfortunate and very unlucky and cursed. Football gods have cursed us. And you never know. Thursday may be the change in all that. And maybe we get the second one to bounce our way. But I do kind of want to get a gist of the feeling right now. And again, like I said, not a screaming match, not a shouting match. I'm not going to say outlandish things to get views and clicks and things like that. But it does somewhat feel like the end is coming. It does feel like the end is coming now. I think we can all agree, Ange, you can tell, is a nice guy. I think we all wanted this to go well with Ange. And to be fair, hypothetically, if he wins the Europa League and he gets his Champions League football, yeah, the league form wouldn't be a success, but you've won a European trophy. Hell, you've won a trophy. It's not what we do at Spurs. So that already is a shock to the system. But it does feel like the end is coming. The constant attacking of one another online and within the fan base, opening up Twitter and opening up social media and sort of just realizing, why would you want to be on these platforms? You say one thing to either go against the club or for the club, and people will attack you for it. You could say, oh, I really like this player, and people will attack you for it. And that's how I've always been really clear with things. You can be Ange in or Ange out, and I don't have an issue. You could be Levy in, Levy out. You could be a certain player in or out. I'm not going to have that issue with you. But I feel like we are all sort of getting there, aren't we, with Ange? Even the most prominent pro-Ange people are sort of sitting there going, the injuries was a reasonable excuse for how the form went, right? Looking at really The performances probably for the last couple of months. Well, a couple of months is probably unfair. Maybe let's say 6 weeks. I think that was like the start of the international break. It was about 6 weeks ago. You get the odd 15, 20, half an hour, maybe even 45 minutes of that was really good. And we looked so great there. And then you get another 45 minutes where you go, why did we put out a completely different 11 for the second half? Or, did we start the game with a completely different 11? And I'm not really referring to like a Southampton game, to be fair, because I feel like that was very much more. I know Ange sort of said, the players went passive. I just kind of thought they're managing the game. And once Southampton had got a goal back, Spurs then realised, okay, we'll have to kick up a gear again. And we did, and we scored. But it's more so watching yesterday. And I wasn't even angry. I wasn't even angry when we conceded goals. I don't even think I remember celebrating any of our goals, actually. I was a bit numb to it all. And I was more so actually just trying to sit there and take it in, trying to be, kind of like a neutral in a way, try and take in this game and see things for what they are and not what your fan mindset would give you. So, for example, like, oh, it's not always like this. This guy's like that. And this guy, like, for example, like Jed Spence, he's had a solid campaign himself. But you sort of take in his performance as the neutral. You do it with Basuma. I did it with everyone. And just looking at that game and realizing what there's a lot of changes, we take that into account. Maybe there's a few bumpy, minutes, maybe it's not easy, maybe the style of play isn't as great. But I was sort of watching it and going, there's a lot of things wrong here. There's a lot of things wrong. The style of play is it's sort of grinded to a halt in a weird way. There's like I said, there's games like Southampton where that's Ange ball. AZ Alkmaar the second leg, that's Ange ball. Even Frankfurt in the first leg, that's Ange ball. Watching yesterday, it was where is the passages of play? Where is the quality on show? You get players who are coming off the pitch who are very angry, like, oh, why am I being substituted? And you sort of watch the game and go, I just watched you play. I know why you've been substituted. You probably should have been substituted earlier, which obviously that's a gripe with Ange for some fans, but that's a gripe for another day. We won't talk about it now. The quality of some of these players in these games, they look scared. They look scared, if I'm honest, which obviously isn't a great mentality to have for a top 8, 9 club when it comes to size and revenue and things like that. That's not a great look. And okay, maybe that's on the fans. There's a little bit too much pressure for fans. Maybe it's that. Maybe there's too much pressure from the coaching side. Maybe there's too much pressure from ownership. Maybe it's a combination of all three, and maybe it's none of them. But they look terrified to break out from the norm. They look terrified to try some things. Now, the irony into that is the defenders are the ones that don't have that issue. Oh, we're flying out of position. We're going to go flying into a tackle. Whereas the attack seems to be the only place where they don't want to try and do things and be creative. And I'm struggling with that. I'm struggling with I defend the young players, obviously, because they're young. They are going to make mistakes. Matisse will make mistakes. Bergval will make mistakes. Archie Gray will make mistakes. I'm also struggling with the more senior internationals of this squad who play, which includes, Vicario, Romero. It will include, even Bentancur yesterday. Didn't think he was great coming on. I think you would include James Maddison. I know he's not a senior international, but he's a senior Premier League player. You incorporate Brennan Johnson's into it. Dominic Solanke, you might be able to incorporate into it. I don't think we're playing to this the strengths of certain players as well. Dominic Solanke is a lethal finisher. Lethal finisher. he spends more time having to chase after a ball than we do actually giving him a chance to actually do something with it in front of goal. I don't think we're playing certain players' strengths as that. Now, ahead of Thursday and ahead of what is the season defining game, the irony to it all is even if we go through against Frankfurt, right? The two semi-final games are cup finals, and then the cup final is obviously a cup final. That's obviously if you get there. And I sort of said something yesterday after the game that if Spurs were to lose against Frankfurt, Spurs won't get relegated. We know that. You play the players who are going to be here next season. You start to develop them, And if that means you're dropping the bigger name players, then you drop the big name players because Ange probably won't be here. Thursday night, Friday morning, he'd probably be sacked. Okay. And then what I would like is I don't care who the caretaker manager is. It could be you, me, your dog, the hamster down the road, or the cat that's sitting outside your house right now. I don't care who it is. Don't play those senior internationals who have continuously screwed up time after time after time under different managers. And if that, in your eyes, for me, that would include players like Heung-Min Son. Don't play him. Just say to Son, we're going to be testing out Mikey more and Matisse Tell more. Playing Odebear a lot more. Dropping James Maddison. If Romero's not going to be here next season, you drop him, you play Kevin Danso. And you start to develop some of these players for next season into building chemistry with one another. Playing Archie Gray in the midfield. No issues with seeing that, and that, playing Archie Gray, Bergvall, Kulusevski as your midfield three, seeing what you've got there, playing Odebear and Tell as your wingers, and maybe Ian Solanke still playing a striker, but maybe changing up and seeing if you can get Solanke to get the ball in front of goal, maybe. Because what we do find is that Richarlison comes off the bench, he scores a goal, somewhat an irrelevant goal, everyone buys back into him, he gets injured. And that's sadly the case, okay? That's not a dig at Richie, all right? I like Richie. I actually think he's a good footballer. As we all have that gripe, he cannot stay healthy long enough. So as we hurtle into Thursday, we've got tomorrow, we've got Wednesday. Days without the games, obviously. We hurtle into Thursday like an asteroid heading for Earth. It's a very daunting aspect because normally in these sort of situations, you're like 5th or 6th. You could still fight for a higher league position. You got things to play for. In reality, in the league, you don't really have anything to play for. There's 6 games left of the season, right? And I mean Premier League games, so not European fixtures. Because technically there's 7, because obviously you got Thursday, and you might have 9, and you might have 10 games left in total if you get to the final. But actually, it would be a very, very worrying situation if you are to go out on Thursday. You've got 6 games left of the season. You may have a manager change, and the cycle repeats. And a friend asked me this morning, "Oh, who would you like to have as manager next season?" And I said, "Does it really matter?" Sadly, does it really matter? Poch left however many years ago, right? He was the guy that has lasted more than 2 years in terms of managers. Okay, he lasted obviously about half a decade. Conte lasted about a year. Nuno lasted about 12 minutes. Jose obviously lasted, what was it, about a year as well, whatever it was. They're not lasting very long, right? And I don't think that's down to Daniel Levy needs to spend more in the transfer market. I don't actually think it's that whatsoever. Because you have to spend money in football. We understand that. Spurs do spend money. People will tell you they don't because all they do is highlight certain parts of the financial reports and use it as an agenda thing. But if you have a look at the financial reports, Spurs do spend money. Now, where they could be better is on wages. Yes, I agree. They probably should be better on wages. But also having competent, and I mean just competent. I don't need world class, competent footballing people in footballing roles making footballing decisions. And I don't mean a manager. And maybe Johan Lang becomes that guy. He makes footballing decisions that are really, really great. I think the jury is definitely still out on Johan. I think the Praschi era had some hits and it had a lot of misses. And maybe Vinay coming in right now will stabilize all of the business side of things, that the business side will just deal with itself, then everyone can focus purely on football. Maybe that's what him coming in to do. Maybe. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that side of things. But having competent football people in competent having competent football people in high roles doing competent things. Like I said, I don't need them to be the absolute best of the best. If they were just solid at what they did, right? Spurs would be a much, much better team. We haven't done that. Yeah, like I said, we have some hits, but we have plenty of misses. Now, Johan in the summer, for example, clears out a lot of the dead wood. That's great. Got some really solid loan moves for some players. Jamie Donnelly, solid loan move. Josh Keeley, solid loan move. But also, when you look at the actual first team squad, he didn't really add enough in. He didn't have enough hits. And when, you're moving off of Emerson and you're moving off of Højbjerg and Skip, the fact of the matter is, Ange has been here now 2 seasons. This is the second season. We still haven't signed a left back. We still don't have another left back signed. That's competency being at its all-time low. 2 per position is what everyone always talks about. You need 2 per position, and we still don't have a second left back. Well, Andy, the second left back's Ben Davies. Okay, then why have we not got another centre back? However you want to frame it, in either way, they have failed in those positions massively. Well, we've got Vuskovic coming in the summer. We were told, last summer, didn't really want to add in a centre back, so we didn't want to block the pathway for Phillips or Vuskovic. It's like, cool, right. So we're punting on this season then, waiting for these guys to turn up, who we don't even know if they're going to be great. Because they're youngsters, they've never played for Tottenham. You just don't know. So why are we punting on that? And then we make desperation moves in January for Mark Guay, who, as all things have been accounted for, his whole camp went, "What? Why is that bid come in? We're not moving. I don't know what you're doing." Yeah, we get told about Lang's Monaco. He works in silence. But it's got really loud at Spurs, over the last few months. The January transfer window was loud. Like Kinski signed, didn't hear a peep. Lang's working in silence. And then we heard about Disassi every half an hour. Spurs are in for him. Spurs are out for him. Spurs are in for him. Spurs are out for him. Matisse Tell, very, very loud. Mark Guay bid, loud. Something went wrong. And it maybe is the leaking of information to moles and things like that. Maybe it's that. And maybe it could be from the people you're buying off, that they're leaking the information. Regardless, it was loud. I just don't know what this summer will truly look like if Spurs are to exit the Europa League on Thursday night. The 17th of April, your seasons could be over. And normally when people talk about, the season's over, like I said, they've always got something to play for in terms of we can finish a little bit higher in the league. Maybe instead of Conference League, it's the Europa League. Maybe instead of the Europa League, it's Champions League. Maybe instead of not being anything, it's the Conference League. You could always fight for something. And Spurs, technically, yes, could obviously still finish higher. I understand that. But would the players have the real energy to fight and try and finish in the top 10? I don't think they would, personally. So when it comes to who I would want as next manager, until you fix what's going on higher up in terms of just making smart decisions that When I look at other big teams, they seem to make on the regular, you unfortunately aren't going to have the manager that you want to have the success that you want. Be it Thomas Frank, Andoni Iraola, Marco Silva, Xavi. It's not. It's definitely not going to be Simeone and Inzaghi. I know we were linked to him. It's not going to be him. All right. Doesn't matter who it is. Can anyone sit there and honestly say they will have success, and they can guarantee me they'll have success? I even said as a joke, well, you know, the Wolves manager, he's got a better win rate than all three of those managers. When you subtract out their time in the championship of the clubs they're at right now, so in for Frank and for Marco Silva, if you actually remove all, periods of lower league football, that guy has a much higher win percentage. He's played a lot less games. Doesn't matter, does it not? They were like bottom of the league for 8 or 9 games this season. He's won 8 of 16, 50% win rate. The other guys have got a 41% win rate. But no one talks about that. But you'll get the fan base fighting over one another going, how could you want Marco Silva? Thomas Frank's the best guy. And how could you want Thomas Frank? Andoni Iraola's best guy. And you still get people going, Andoni Iraola, he injures all of his players. Like, obviously we attack our Ange because the only people that can injure players is the manager. We're in a lose situation across the board, unfortunately. Now, winning the Europa, obviously, like I said, it can happen. Anything can happen in football, whether you are negative or positive, anything can happen, right? But in reality, I always compare the Champions League run, right, to having, imagine behind me, there's cracks in my wall, right? And me getting out sellotape and putting sellotape over it, or me getting blue tack and sticking the blue tack in the crack. You go, I mean, that might help for a second or two, but it's not going to fix anything. And unfortunately, right now, all we're doing is putting sellotape over things and not fixing it. And I don't mean the cracks are Ange, by the way, or the players. The cracks are footballing making decisions above them. Like I said, they're phenomenal on the business side of things. They are. Look, we get the stadium. That's a lot of debt to the stadium. The stadium turns over so much bloody money. It's ridiculous. There's a reason they want to build the hotel next to it. They want to make it an event hub. Like when you go to events for Madison Square Garden, right, in New York, you're going to be in a hotel maybe for a couple of nights around there. It's a hub. Yeah, that's what they want to make. They want to rejuvenate, put on events, and then people go back to the hotel, stay at the hotel, so you catch them all for all their money. That's what they want. The stadium will 100% allow them to afford to build a massive hotel. They will. There's a reason they get the F1 track. There's a reason, they've got a NFL stadium in there, not stadium, pitch in there as well. It turns over so much money. So it's not business. Business is great. As much as, we might disagree about the football and things like that. Business side of it is great. The issue that we all have is, people go, Andrew spent all this money. Look what did it. It's like I find it very funny when people disparage managers. That managers seem to be the only one that make a decision. They train the players. They then get on their emails and phone calls. They phone agents to sign players. They do all the contracts. They do everything like that. They do all the admin work. They put it into HR and things like that. And then they go and train those players and just do it over and over and over. They're a small cog in the big wheel. All right. There's so many other people that get involved in deals. Okay. That's why, yesterday I said I hold Ange's feet to the fire on terms of making poor decisions and losses. But I also said I'm holding the players' feet to the fire, which we seem to either verbally abuse or say nothing towards our players, right? Don't really understand it. I'm trying to work it out, but it's been, 18 months of me trying to work it out under Ange, not because of Ange, because of our own fans. I hold Johan Lang and Paratici, their feet to the fire because there's Paratici signings in that squad. I hold Daniel Levy's feet to the fire. Let's put Scott Munn's feet to the fire. Let's put everyone's feet to the fire, the medical team included. Like I said, we're hurtling towards Thursday. We are flying in there like an asteroid about to hit Earth. Like someone, we're playing baseball and Paul Skeens and the Pittsburgh Pirates has sent me a fastball. How are you going to react to that? Now, Thursday night is going to be a raucous atmosphere. If you listen to those away fans last week, right, Frankfurt were phenomenal. And people go, oh, all they sung was like the same song for 90 minutes. Well, that's kind of supporting your team. They were making noise. They were backing their players. So if that's a small fraction, a few thousand, whatever it was, small fraction of Frankfurt fans, what happens when there's 10 times that amount? I mean, I don't exactly know what the capacity of a Frankfurt stadium is, but let's say it's just they had 2,500 fans there. What happens when they've got 25,000? How do these players react? Because look, you're going to be whistled when you've got the ball. There's going to be drums playing. There's going to be all sorts of instruments going on. There's going to be jumping around fans. There's going to be all sorts. If you watch the Bundesliga, you know. How are you going to react? Are you going to step up? Are you going to be, the leaders in the group? Are they going to be leaders? Are they going to go out there and say, follow my lead? I will get us to victory if you follow me. Come with me on this journey. Or are we going to play stupid passes out from the back and just not clear it at times? Are we going to hit the first man on every single corner and free kick possible? Are we not going to track our runners? Or are we going to be switched on? And we're going to have to dig in at times. We'll see about that. But in reality, we've stuck with players this season. Now, I'll step aside from like the injury crisis because if you've got 12 players to pick from, you've kind of got 12 players to pick from. You've now obviously got, nearly double that to pick from, right? On Thursday, those players who have underperformed for, let's say, the last 6 weeks, I personally am not that keen on watching them play. I'm not. There's going to be players that can't give you, more than 45 minutes. Maybe Dejan Kulusevski can only give you 45 minutes. Got it. Understand it. But I'm looking at Matisse Tell and go, some things worked yesterday, some things didn't. But he looked like he tried. He looked like he was doing something. I want to see that over Son or Johnson. And he might pick Son because he wants that experience. And I do understand that to a degree, but he hasn't been good enough for a little while now. And we all like Sonny. We all think he's a good guy. And on his day, he's still a phenomenal player. And his stats this season are good. But he hasn't been good really for about 6 weeks at least. I've seen more out of Tell. I've seen more out of Odobert in the same sort of time. And I know people, try and defend him and say, "Look, well, he does things that you don't spot on the game." Well, you can say the same for Johnson. The amount of times I see Johnson in great spaces and in great positions, and we don't ever seem to do this. Let me try a ball over the top. No. I'm going to play a 6-yard pass sideways or backwards. And there's a time and place for that because maybe you want to try and slow the game down. I get that. But when a guy's in a ton of space and it's on, the ball should go. Every now and then, just see. And you keep the defense honest. You keep them pinned back thinking, I can't press it because they might get in behind me. Whereas we, on the other hand, people go, play it around in front of them. They'll come and attack and we'll just play it over the top and we'll have our success. Thursday's really fascinating for so many different reasons. Is it the end of the season? Is it the continuation of the season? Like I said, you can still win that game and go through. Is it a continuation of the season? Is it the end of the season? Is it the making of a Tottenham like season? Rubbish most of this season in terms of the league position and points totals and things like that. Only to turn around and win a European trophy. It would sum up Tottenham to a degree. Now, not because we've won a trophy, that doesn't sum up Tottenham, but for things to be as poor as they have been, and for us to then in turn go from that to winning a European trophy, would be typical. But I do think some of these players' mindsets need to change. Feels like there's a little bit too much arrogance as well at times with some of these players. That needs to change. It has to change. And I think some of these players have been humbled. I do. In a good way. But I don't think, in reality, enough has been done on their side of things. And I know a lot of blame will be put at the manager's feet. I get that. I'm not denying that. There will be blame that should be at his feet. Absolutely. But there's too many people not putting enough blame at some of the players' feet. And there needs to be. So we'll sort of see on that side of things. What criteria do I want to see in a manager? Scott, like I said, mate, unfortunately, it really doesn't matter what you want. Like I said, you could be a Marco Silva, pragmatic, quite negative football at times. You could be Thomas Frank, which is a little bit the same. You could be Iriola, which is kind of a bit like Ange in a way. I'm not saying it is completely like Ange before some little weirdo cries about the fact that I've said they're the same. He's in the realm of that side of football. 12 to 18 months, we'll be in the same position. We'll be asking them for them to be sacked. And it gets boring. It gets tiring. And I'm not saying I need a manager to be here 12, 15, 20 years. I just need competency from higher ups to make competent decisions. We've got this data system, right? We've got this amazing data system that's going to flag so many great players. Can that data system be used, like, I don't know, to make okay decisions, higher ups that aren't in terms of signing a player or selling a player? I wonder if there's something they could do. Maybe they should ask ChatGPT. Can you help me? Because I clearly don't know what I'm doing. So we'll sort of see. We should sort of see. But look, Thursday's going to be interesting. Obviously, we will do a preview probably Wednesday for it. Loan Roundup will be back tomorrow. There's some good stuff coming out the Loan Roundup. Jamie Donnelly doing his thing again as per, which I'm looking forward to. But we shall sort of see on that side of things. I'm very interested to see what comes out of the club today. What will come out of the club today? So I just thought I saw something. I truly don't know what's going to happen. But the one thing I would say, it's my last point. Whoever the next manager is, like I said, if it's Ange, if it's not, it doesn't matter. Are we as Spurs fans, even the most anti-Levy and anti-Ange fans, are we all in agreement that the next manager that comes in, we don't try and revisionism towards a Conte and a Mourinho and Poch and things like this? It's boring. It shows a real lack of awareness to do such thing. You see it on Twitter all the time. Conte did this with this sort of squad. Conte had the best striker in the world. Do we remember that? And that's what we need to remember. Going into next season, are we aware that we do not have the best striker in the world? Potentially one of the best players in the world. Like I said, do you remember I use that analogy as cracks. Big, big cracks. And we put sellotape over it. Those big cracks with the sellotape over it was Harry Kane. He was the one that was keeping us afloat. Are we aware he's not walking through my doors over there? He's not walking through that door there. And if so, that we're aware that he's not walking through that door there, realizing top four isn't a thing that's going to happen. Top four will not happen. Just an FYI. Winning a trophy isn't guaranteed. Top half of the tables is probably where we should be. That's it. 7th or 8th. That's genuinely how I feel about this club. 7th, 8th, 9th, somewhere in there. That's where we should be. And that I don't mean is just this season. I just think going forward, that's where we'll be. We won't be due to lack of competency in making footballing decisions across the board, across every area. We will not be fighting for top 4. We will not be fighting for cup trophies on the regular. We might have a season or two where we go to the semi-final of an FA Cup, but then we come up against a team who really tries in the footballing sense. They have competent people making really competent decisions. We won't win those trophies. We will not be in top 4. We will not be in the Champions League. So as long as people are aware of that, they then realise, oh yeah, actually, we're probably supposed to be about 8th or 9th, and maybe we get Conference League. That's what we might get. Maybe that's what it is. And, maybe next season, if we're not in Europe, you're playing once a week, maybe that's going to help. But in reality, if you compare our situation, and I'm not going to compare it with Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea, okay? Not going to compare it with them because that's not a very fair comparison. Compare it with Aston Villa. Compare it with Newcastle. I would say those two teams are better than us. Villa after last season, even when things were good, they're still better than us. I still think they're better than us now. Newcastle, I think they've leapfrogged us. So at our best, that's now 6th. Fulham have improved a lot. Forest are improved immensely. I think Forest might drop a little bit, but they won't drop massively. Once you've got that European revenue, that European, whatever competition it is, you got that revenue, you try and build on that. You try and make that a more regular thing because then you can really start to up your spending. See Aston Villa right now. Just saying. I mean, that's the other thing. Chelsea finished below us last season. So actually, when you deep it, we finished 5th. Chelsea finished below us. That's 6th. Newcastle better than us. That's 7th. That's the Conference League. That's as good as we can hope for right now, sadly. So as long as we're really, really aware of that going forward, and we don't think we should be fighting Man City to win the quadruple every season, we shouldn't be where Liverpool is every season. Until you make the right decisions up there, not talking about God, all right? As soon as you start making the right decisions up there, and frequently, not just like 1 in every 7, all right? You make the majority of decisions competently and correctly, then that can change. And maybe, hell, Thursday might change that. You never even know. You win that, then you get Bodo Glimt or Lazio in the next round. Obviously, we don't know. As much as I think it's still 2-0 Bodo Glimt, that's half time. Things can change. And wherever you get on the other side of the draw is what you ever get on the side of the draw. If it's Man United or Lyon or it's Bilbao or Rangers, I think those are the 4 teams. That would give you Champions League football. That would give you what Daniel Levy so much craves. And obviously, it would give you a lot more money to spend. But it's how you spend that money. We've not been very good at that for a long time. Like I said, you had Harry Kane, the world's best striker. And at worst at times, he was maybe 2nd or 3rd. What did we surround him with? We didn't make the right footballing decisions. So that's what it comes down to. Could this team be better than 7th? Yeah. You get a good coach in. You recruit well in the transfer market. Yeah, of course. But right now, would anyone sit here and say we're better than Liverpool? We're better than Arsenal? We're better than Man City? We're better than Chelsea? We're better than Villa? We're better than Newcastle? The answer is no, we're not. That's 7. We're at 7th there. And you can't expect Man United to continue to be this poor for that long, that much longer. They spend money. They haven't got an issue. They will put money at this. They have for years. They've put just as much money as nearly everyone else at it. At some point, they're gonna stumble over some good decision making, and you will see a return of Man United to a degree. Yeah, what happens with Forest if they have international European football next season? Fascinating. It's a daunting prospect. That might mean nothing if Spurs do what they need to do on Thursday and beyond. But it is a daunting, daunting prospect. It really is, you know. But let's see. Looking forward to Thursday. I'm, like I said, am I delusionally positive? Am I stupidly positive? For me, my attitude is I'm just remaining to try and be positive because I can't do negativity. I don't like it personally, but I also can't do it because I hate the defeated attitudes. I hate that mindset. And I just hope that Spurs do go in and they shock us for once. You know, people will hark back to Ajax away, being 1-0 down at the start of the game in terms of on the leg system, then obviously being down 3-0 at half time of the second leg, obviously, is what I'm saying. That was a long time ago. Those players aren't there right now. Now, you've got Heung-Min Son, yes, but you haven't got the other players there with them. I don't know. I don't know if these players can do that. And it's not, I don't think it's an Ange thing. I don't even think it's a Levy thing. I don't even think it's a Lang thing. It's definitely not a Lang thing. It's definitely not fair. He didn't buy all these players. He has some part, but not a massive part. I don't know if they have the cojones, the grapefruits for it. I don't know if they do. I hope they prove me wrong, and I hope they go in there and decimate them and show everyone we're still a really, really solid team. Just follow it. Just see what we can do. Evidence right now probably doesn't back that. So let's see. Thank you all so much, by the way. It's 42 minutes of me talking about so many different things at the club right now, from the higher ups all the way to the medical team and everything in between, and having an issue with so many different things and sort of discussing through them out loud, letting the mind and the thoughts wander as to as to everything. You know, it's not a happy clap. It's not a pitchfork and fire sort of situation. It's just a chat. Enjoy your leg day, Bob. It's just chat. So we'll see what goes on going forwards. All right, we're back tomorrow to do the loan roundup. Okay, I may be live for it. I don't know tomorrow. It's an interesting one. We will see Thursday. The last minute thoughts. I may not be live for that. I do have an extremely busy day Thursday, so we'll see. But thank you so much for joining me today, talking through this all, listening to my nonsense. Go and enjoy the rest of the days. The rest of your morning. It's 1 minute left, but the afternoon and the evening as well. Look after yourselves. Take care, everyone, and I'll speak to you all very soon. Take care. Peace.